So on today's webinar, we're going to talk about the non-lucrative visa. So myself, I'm Melanie, and Alex from My Lawyer in Spain. Let's just have a look at the areas that we're going to cover on this webinar. Are we able to go to the next slide? Okay, so this is what we're going to cover. We're going to look at what are those documentation requirements for the non-lucrative visa, and how do you assess if you're eligible for the non-lucrative visa. Then we'll have a look at the financial resources. So how much financial resources do you need to qualify for the non-lucrative visa? And then the timing, when do I start? When do I start the process of looking at applying for the non-lucrative visa? What do I need to take into consideration on the timing? And then one of the other things is that people always say, oh, what if my non-lucrative visa is declined? What do I do? Okay, so we'll just cover off that, and then we'll look at, well, okay, what happens after the non-lucrative visa is for 1 year? So what happens after 1 year? What's the renewal process behind that? And how long do I have to actually remain in Spain for me to qualify for renewal of the non-lucrative visa? And then we'll just touch on, lastly, is to say, well, actually, if you're married, if you're a non-EU citizen, okay, and you're married to your spouse is a EU passport holder, then you don't need to apply for a visa. So we'll look at that side of things as well. And I think now we've got Alex joining us. Is Alex there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, so I've just done the introduction, Alex, of what we're going to cover, what today's all about, and then I can't actually see you, but do I require a tourist visa?
Thank you, Melanie, and good afternoon, everyone. So basically, what we're going to be talking about, the non-lucrative visa today, also known as the non-working visa. So you can come to Spain and you don't work. But in particular, it's really for those people who want to spend more than 90 days in a 180-day period in Spain. So at the moment, under the tourist visa, for non-Europeans, you're allowed to spend 90 days in Spain, and then you have to go away, be away out of the EU for 90 days, and you can come back for another 90 days. And if you want more information about the 90-day rule, have a look on our YouTube channel. We've got the 80-day rule there, and you can also download a calendar about that. So if you want to spend more than 90 days, then it's down to the visas. And today we're going to be talking about the non-lucrative visas. Okay. And bear in mind, and we'll talk about this later on, timing is really, really important. Okay. So just go back, Ali, just go back to the previous one. Yeah. Timing is really important. Okay. So because the Spanish tax year runs from January to December, which is quite logical. And when you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then you become a Spanish tax resident, and you will pay tax in Spain on worldwide assets and income. Also, if you're traveling around, but your spouse and minors live habitually in Spain, then even though you might not be here for the 183 days, but they are, then that could drag you into the Spanish tax residency. So thinking about whether you're going to become a Spanish tax resident when is really quite important, and timing that is crucial, because you can fall foul and pay some important taxes that could be avoidable. And we'll talk about that shortly. So that's basically, if you come to Spain, you're more than 183 days, then you're going to be considered a tax resident. And when we talk about days, we say, if you arrive on a Saturday and leave on a Sunday, that's 2 days. Even though it's one night, that's actually considered, from a tax point of view, as 2 days. We'll talk about the non-lucrative visa today, and these are the requirements and eligibility criteria for qualifying to obtain the non-lucrative visa. And first of all, you need a Spanish address. This could be a temporary address, a rental property, or a property that you own. You, of course, this whole process, you have to apply for the visa from the country where you live in or the country of residence, if it differs. And then you apply to the Spanish consulate. So, of course, you've got to have an address in the country where you're living in. For the non-lucrative visa, you're retiring to Spain. If you're over the age, over retirement age, and there's an agreement between your home country and Spain, then you may qualify for public medical insurance. And if there's, so for example, UK nationals applying can apply for Form S1, and if, for example, one of the party or one of the married couple, one of the married members of that couple are over the age of 65, but the other one isn't, then the person who's under 65 can also benefit from Form S1. And Form S1 basically has to be registered in Spain, but it gives the person who's retiring to Spain, and of course of retirement age, the right to plug into Spanish health care here in Spain, and they wouldn't need private medical insurance. Unfortunately, anyone under the age of retirement would need private medical insurance. You can go onto our specialist website, legalservicesinspain.com, where we've also got our Spanish Residency, Get Spanish Residency website. And you can, if you scroll down on the Legal Services website, you'll come across insurance brokers. And if you click on there, you can fill out the form and they will send you a quote, a no obligation quote for health insurance. Because we know it's very important that, you know, some if you've got existing preconditions, then some insurance companies may not cover those. So it's important to speak to a health provider and get a quote for that up front. However, again, if you are of retirement age, you can get Form S1, you wouldn't need to worry about pre-existing conditions. In addition, for the requirements for the non-lucrative visa, you need a medical certificate confirming your good health. That's generally provided so long as you can breathe and you're not suffering from any nasty World Health Organization illnesses. And basically, we've got a specific wording for that, which we can send to you. And you would then take that along to your doctor who would sign that off and confirm you're fit and healthy and okay to move to Spain. We will need a clean criminal record certificate, basically stating that you haven't committed any nasty crimes within the last 5 years. If you are married and applying with your spouse, then you'll need duplicate marriage certificates. And of course, if you're coming to Spain with children, then you'll need a duplicate birth certificate from them. And then, of course, because you're actually retiring to Spain, you've got to prove that you're not working when you apply for the visa. So you don't give up your work just yet. Wait until you actually apply for the visa before you actually do give up. So I'm now going to pass you back to Melanie, and she can talk to you about the financial resources required for the non-lucrative visa.
Okay, thank you, Alex. So financial resources. So this is the amount of funds that you need to prove that you've got available to you when you're residing in Spain. So the authorization of the visa is for 1 year. Okay, so your residency is going to be for 1 year. So if you're a single applicant, then you need to show that you've got the equivalent of just short of 29,000 euros. Okay, doesn't have to be in a Spanish bank account. It really does need to be you need to show these funds in an account that you hold in your own country. You can show Spanish bank accounts, okay, but they will still ask for accounts from your home country. So you need to show that you've got that amount of funds to live in Spain for 1 year. Okay, and that can be a combination. If you're retired, that can be a combination of pension income. It can be savings to make up that 29,000 euros, the equivalent of. Now, if you're married, then a married couple can, whilst you're applying for the non-lucrative visa in your own right, you can actually show joint financial resources to the equivalent of just short of the 36,000 euros there. And if you have any dependent children under the age of 18, then then you will need to show an extra 7,198 and the 38 cents there for per child on the financial resources. Okay, now these financial resources, this is, as Alex said, it's a non-lucrative visa, so you cannot show any income from salary because because they wouldn't approve your visa on that side of things. But you can take your pension income, any sort of rental income that you might have a long-term property that you rent out in the UK, so you can use that. You might have dividends that are non-work related that you receive on a regular basis, okay, but not salary. If you are looking at the pension, showing your pension income that you actually receive, that's taken into consideration, but not the value of a pension pot. Often get asked that question. It's not the value of a pension pot, because they will say that value can go up and down. They want to see the actual income that you're drawing down for a pension. So those are the overall financial resources for one year. Okay. So in terms of timing, when do I start planning for this, and what do I need to take into consideration? Okay, I always ask, when do you want to move to Spain? So, and Alex mentioned earlier also about the timing side of things, and also the tax year in Spain. So if you want to, if I always recommend that you start the process sort of 4 to 5 months before your move to Spain, depending on the timing of when you actually want to start residing in Spain and anything else you wish to take into consideration. I also mention here is that you do apply for the visa at the Spanish consulate in your own country where you currently live, or your main country of residence, okay? And particularly in the UK, all 3 of those consulates retain your passport, okay, during the visa approval process, okay, which can officially take up to 3 months, although on average it's about 8 weeks. Okay, so just be aware that your passport is going to be retained whilst you're waiting visa approval. So it's probably a good idea to use those sort of 90 days in the 180-day rolling period first, and then to visit Spain, and then come back to the UK to start that process anyway. So you wouldn't be traveling to Spain there. Okay. So spend in advance of your, of applying for the actual visa at the consulate, the Spanish consulate, you need to spend up to a couple of months preparing the documentation. Okay, you can do it quicker than that. You can get these documents using, say, premium services instead of standard services, which take longer. So allow up a couple of months for the preparation of your documentation, and then I shall say in your 3rd month, attend that appointment, which in person at the consulate, and depending where you reside, okay, each consulate has a catchment area where they actually cover for where you live in say for the UK. And then once you've applied in person, then you wait for the approval notification, which, as I said earlier, on average, our average is, you can give or take about 8 weeks, although officially they have up to three months. But just on that, when you apply for the non-lucrative visa at a Spanish consulate, the documentation is actually sent through to the particular foreigner's office in Spain, okay, where you intend to reside. So Alex mentioned earlier that you need a preliminary Spanish address. The purpose of that preliminary Spanish address is because they need to know which area, okay, to send this documentation to, because they deal with the approval. Okay, and then once the foreigner's office has approved it, it comes back to the consulate, okay, and then you get your notification of approval. And then your passport is returned to you in the prepaid envelope with the visa affixed inside your passport. And then once you receive this, you can then come and travel to Spain, and you apply for your TIE residency permit, which will say authorized to reside in Spain, but not work. Okay, and it'll be valid for 1 year. Okay, and just point 3, did you want to mention, Alex, can I pass you over to on that sort of tax year run on point 3?
Yeah, thanks for that. So as we talk about, timing is really quite crucial. So if you sell your main property in the UK and you make a gain on that property and became a Spanish tax resident in the same year, so you spent 183 days, and you didn't invest all the monies that you've gained from the sale of your home property, then potentially you could end up paying capital gains tax on the sales proceeds that are not invested into your new property in Spain, or not invested generally. So how can you mitigate that? In effect, if you sold your property in your home country in December of last year and you moved to Spain in January, because you're in a separate tax year, you won't be subject to any Spanish capital gains tax on the sales process of your main property because it's not in the same year. So that's one way of mitigating it. The other way of mitigating would be, as Melanie said, you start to prepare your non-lucrative visa now, and taking into account the days you spent in Spain already, you move to Spain, you aim to move to Spain, say, in August. And because you move to Spain in August, and between August and December, there aren't 183 days, you won't become a Spanish tax resident in 2024. So you won't be subject to any capital gains tax on the sale of your UK property. So we have, it is a complicated matter. But if you've got any questions about that, we can follow up later. But just bear in mind, try and mitigate. This is the capital gains tax only applies if you're making a gain on the sale of your main property in the UK or properties, and you're not reinvesting all of that into Spain. Okay, if it's your main residence and you're over the age of 65, then there are allowances for that. But this tax can be mitigated, and it's just all about the timing of when you move to Spain. So I'll pass you back.
Yeah, I just wanted to, just on that, because that's great. Because don't forget as well, even if you are preparing in advance here, you have a flexibility when you apply on the day of that consulate appointment. When you apply for the visa, you've got a window of 90 days in advance of when you want your visa to start. Okay, so you can say when you want your visa to start up to 90 days. So you're planning ahead there, and then you can actually put a forward start date on that visa if you wish. So there are little things you can do that will help you with your timing and your flexibility there to get more control of when you want this to start. Biggest one, fear of rejection of the actual visa being declined. And I just simply say this: as with any Spanish residency, the key to approval of this visa is correct documentation, executing that documentation, okay, having it prepared when you go to the consulate so that everything is in order, okay. And typical things are, we talked about private medical insurance. People who, you might be navigating this yourself and you might think, right, I've already got private medical insurance here. I've got that in the UK. It is not acceptable, your UK private medical insurance for Spanish residency. There's very specific requirement for the private medical insurance. It needs to be authorized with a provider who is authorized to operate in Spain, because it needs to mirror the Spanish healthcare system. Okay, so that's a common reason why you might, you might get ask for private medical insurance that complies with the Spanish residency requirements. Okay, or Alex mentioned earlier a certificate from your GP of good health, in accordance with the standard wording of the World Health Organization. Recently, people have been obtaining these from Spain. You cannot obtain a certificate of good health from Spain if you weren't in Spain at the time. Okay, and they will look for that. So those are a couple of reasons, just examples about correct documentation. Okay, and if there is anything, sometimes they may ask to clarify something. Okay, remember I said this is going, you apply at the consulate, this goes down the line to the foreigner's office. We always provide a summary in Spanish for you to take when you do go to the consulate to apply for the visa. But sometimes they may want clarification, or they may even ask you for additional documentation, and you will have a 10-day period for that. Okay.
And Melanie, just we do get a lot of clients say, "Oh, I'm going to start the visa process first, and then I'll look at buying the property." But basically, have we had any rejections on non-lucrative visas?
No. No, none, because we've been dealing with the Foreigners Office for years, and we know what the Foreigners Office are looking for when they look at these applications. Okay, so when we're checking the documentation, we're going to say we're going to say there and then if a certain document does not comply with the legislation, does not comply with the requirements, and it needs to be corrected. Now and again, we've experienced throughout the years where they change the requirements, okay, on the spot. So, you just have to deal with those, but you've got the 10-day period there. Nothing you can do about that if they change something on the day. We just have to, be proactive and provide, what they want. But no, we've had a 100% success rate on the non-lucrative visas.
Okay, well,
and it is all about the documentation.
So it's all about the documentation, but also the criteria we talked about earlier. So as long as you get the health certificate, you've got a clean criminal record certificate, you've got the financial resources, marriage certificate, children's birth certificate, etc., then it's basically a straightforward, easy application.
And you mentioned the clean criminal record certificate there. The requirement is in the last 5 years. Okay, so clean criminal record certificate in the last 5 years.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, right, excellent. Let's talk about renewals.
Yeah, renewal years. I've seen a lot of information or clients come to us to say about getting confused about the requirements for the renewal years. Okay, so this is what happens. So you've gone to the consulate, you've applied. When you enter Spain with that visa affixed into your passport, the moment you enter Spain is the first day that your residency in Spain begins for that year. Okay, so even though you haven't applied for that residency card yet, it will have already started. Okay, and when you get that residency card, you'll see that it started the day you entered Spain on that visa that's affixed into your passport. Okay, and that will be valid for 1 year. And then you get to renew. After 1 year, you get to renew your residency. Okay, and you can renew it 60 days, within 60 days before it expires. Okay, and you renew it for 2 years. The financial resources you now have to show for each of those renewal years. So effectively, yes, it is double. However, if you are in receipt of a pension, you don't need to show double the pension, because you receive that pension for each of those years. But if you are just using savings, then we talked about a married couple, they need to show the equivalent of 36,000 euros. So they would have to show 36,000 euros for each of those renewal years. So that's 72,000 euros. If you are not in receipt of a pension income or any other type of acceptable income, then you are going to need to show that you have sufficient savings for that 2-year period to reside in Spain. Okay, so you renew for 2 years, and then you renew for a further 2 years, and exactly the same as what I've just explained under the financial resources. Okay, there's no requirement to keep the same that fund in that. People ask, so I have to keep it all there for the 2 years? No, as long as you've got the funds in the account when you come to apply to renewal, that's the most important. Okay, you've got those funds available. Spain is expecting you to spend it while you're residing during those 2 years in Spain. Okay, and then you would have spent 5 years in Spain. Okay, so now here's where you can renew for permanent residency for 5 years. And you do not need to show that level of financial resources anymore. Okay. I just want to mention that if at the 5-year stage, when you renew for 5 years permanent residency, they expect you to have consistently resided in Spain for the last 5 years. So to qualify for the renewal after 2 years, you need to have spent at least 180 days in Spain in a year to qualify for the renewal. Okay, but when you come to the 5-year renewal, if you have been absent for more than 10 months in a 5-year period, you will not qualify for the 5-year renewal. Therefore, you would just renew again for 2 years. Okay, I know that's a lot of information there, but there's a lot of misinformation out there saying that you've got to have spent 183 days in Spain to qualify for renewal. No, you don't. It's 180 days. Okay, it's in the legislation to qualify for renewal. After 1 year, if you decide, right, okay, I'd like to, I've got an opportunity to work for a Spanish company. Okay, they're offering me a full-time contract. It complies, with the Spanish employment law, minimum salary and everything. After 1 year, you can actually apply for a modification to work in Spain. Okay, so you would just instead of renewing it on the same basis, you are applying for a modification to work in Spain, and you can do that after 1 year on that first 1 year renewal. I just wanted to give you a recent study case of what does a renewal look like, because we're talking about a higher level of financial resources when we're looking at the 2-year renewal period. Okay, so this is something typical. We talked about just short of 72,000 euros equivalent of. Again, it's not a mandatory requirement to have Spanish bank statements to prove this. So somebody who has a pension income, a married couple got a pension income, and their annual pension income added up to £17,500. Okay, and that's what they get on an annual basis. Well, they get it on an annual basis, so we can times that by 2 years. So over a 2-year period, they're going to receive 35,000 net in pension income. So the shortfall we presented was 33,000 balance, which they had in a savings account, which then covered with the exchange rate more than sufficient financial resources than the 71,000 euros there. Okay, the other thing that you need to do is please keep that private medical insurance. If you've got the private medical insurance to qualify for renewal, it's not just all about the financial resources. No gaps in your private medical insurance. Keep that renewing, okay, because you should be renewing that without any gaps. And then, of course, we talked about the spending 180 day minimum of spending 180 days in Spain to qualify for renewal. Your passport, a full copy of your passport is required with your renewal application there. And you also need to continue to register at the town hall on the padron against the address that you are living at. So that's what a renewal application looks like. And then we have, If you are married, if you are a non-EU citizen, UK citizen, let's say, for example, and you're married, your spouse holds an EU passport, whether it's Irish, German, an EU passport holder, then you don't need to apply for a visa if your EU spouse is going to apply for Spanish residency. Okay, so your EU spouse would apply for Spanish residency at the police station, and then that gives you the right as a family member of your EU spouse to apply for Spanish residency on the same basis. Okay. Here's where you will have read a lot of inconsistency about what is the proof of financial resources for a family member of an EU citizen. Okay. And I've just given you, I've got a real live case on the next slide coming through, but this is a typical, what they could ask for is up to the 28,495 euros there, if this is two adults where you're not in receipt of an income, you're not working, okay, and this is what they could apply and ask you to show as proof of financial resources so that you do not become a burden on the Spanish economy, on the Spanish state, okay. You would also need, so the financial resources, but you've got to remember this is for a 5-year period, not a 1-year period. So already the financial resources are lower than the non-lucrative visa. And then it's the same sort of things again. It's the, registration at the town hall on the padron, private medical insurance, exactly the same. Recommend on some areas in Spain, okay, depending on where you reside in Spain, there are inconsistencies on the requirements. However, because we operate throughout Spain, we know what those inconsistencies are, okay? Some areas will insist on a Spanish bank account open, and I would recommend that you do open that Spanish bank account and you do show funds in a Spanish bank account because it is more favorable, okay? And I mentioned that, yeah, the EU passport holder applies for a Spanish residency at the police station, and then the family member, we present the application electronically to the Foreigners Office for approval. And once that's approved, the family member will then apply for the TIE residency permit, which allows them to work and reside in Spain and valid for 5 years. Okay. One thing I will mention is that this is to apply for this type of residency, you must have the intention to reside in Spain for more than 3 months, okay? Because when it comes to presenting the non-EU family member application form, okay, they may test out if you are truly intending to reside in Spain. Okay, so just be aware of the legislation there that states that you must have that intention to reside in Spain for more than 3 months. Okay, it doesn't mean to say that you wait 3 months and do it. Okay, that's not what it's saying. In actual fact, that's quite the reverse. You need to do it. You should really be doing it within those 3 months of moving to Spain. But it is sort of saying that you must have the intention to reside in Spain. Okay, so here's a typical from one. This is very recent from one particular Foreigners Office. A family of 4, 2 adults, 2 children. The main applicant being the EU citizen, and the dependent applicant's spouse and 2 children. With the EU citizen working remotely in Spain for a company that is actually based in another country. Okay, those were the financial resources there that we had to provide for a family of 4 to reside in Spain for the approval of their residency applications. And just on this, it is whoever is that EU citizen, it is the EU citizen that is the right to the residency that normally provides the proof of financial resources for the family members. Okay. So they would generally provide that proof of sufficient financial resources for the other family members. And again, we have to prove the intention to consistently reside in Spain, that they are genuinely going to be residing in Spain. And that's great. 2 children, school. In Spain, it's a mandatory requirement. You can't homeschool in Spain. So, you know, you've got things like the registration at a school, proof of those sorts of things, shows that you are genuinely intending to reside in Spain. And that's a thank you.